exposed. The sinister truth behind 100 disappearances in a haunted Romanian village revealed. In a small, unassuming suburban Ohio town, whispers danced through the crisp night air, thick with dread. Families once felt safe behind their picket fences, but now shadows loomed larger, twisting reality into nightmares. Claire, a single mother and exhausted night shift nurse, knew this was not the place she once called home. Not anymore. Strange rumors about disappearances had begun to seep into every conversation, wrapping around her heart like cold fingers tightening with each passing day. The tone at the school gate shifted. Mr. Hargrove, her children's favorite teacher, now wore an unsettling mask. His charming smile, once innocuous, felt like a dangerous omen. They said he had a penchant for lurking around, his presence becoming a chilling reminder of the horrors echoing through the neighborhood. On stormy nights, as the wind howled outside, the shadows deepened, and Clara's skin crawled, suffocating any sliver of comfort her cozy home could provide. One particularly dark evening, as Claire juggled rounds of charting and stubborn coffee cups, she noticed new sounds piercing the veil of darkness. The backyard, once a playground of laughter, was now cloaked in a foreboding silence, broken only by sinister rustles and the echoes of dread. Her heart raced. With every thump against the deck, her imagination painted horrors prowling behind the bushes, ready to strike. Jake and Lily were tucked in bed, their soft breaths carrying on the rare peace of the room. But that night felt different. Suddenly, Jake's voice broke through the stillness. "Mom, I saw Mr. Hargrove outside." Panic clawed at her throat. Not again. Fear wrapped around Claire like a vice. Why was he outside? Night after night, she had held her children close, but the idea of a trusted neighbor watching them from the dark filled her with a cold dread that pushed her to the brink. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Claire's resolve hardened. That evening, armed with her lingering dread, she made her way to confront Mr. Hargrove. As she approached his home, shadows lunged across the porch, menacing forms dancing in the dark like demons coming alive. When he answered, his smile felt like frostbite on her skin. "Claire, what a surprise," he said, but the glint in his eyes sent icy daggers through her. She couldn't shake the story of the lost kids. Every fiber of her being screamed. This man was connected to the horrors. She walked away, clenching her fists. Fear was no longer just a whisper. It had morphed into a deafening roar echoing through her mind. As nights blended into sleeplessness, the question loomed over her like a thunderhead. What was lurking in the shadows, clawing at the edges of her safety? And why was Mr. Hargrove so eager to get close to her children? As dawn broke over the neighborhood, Claire felt an insistent pull, drawing her deeper into the web of terror, a bleak realization that in this new chapter of survival, danger was not just outside her door, but potentially inside her home. She barely slept that night. Her mind raced, twisting thoughts into a tangled mess. What if Mr. Hargrove was watching? What if he was waiting? As dawn bled into the horizon, Claire sat at her kitchen table, a cup of cold coffee forgotten in her trembling hands. Outside, the neighborhood bathed in morning light looked deceptively serene, yet shadows clung to every corner, whispering unholy secrets. Jake and Lily, still resting, were her heart's anchor. But what if she failed to protect them? With each passing moment, dread clawed at her, insistent and consuming. She needed to know more about Mr. Hargrove. A new resolve surged within her. She had to dig into the past of this man who haunted her thoughts like a phantasm. The local library held memories, the kind that could help her peel back layers of obscurity. Claire grabbed her keys, determination set in her eyes, and headed down the quiet street. As she walked, the air grew thick. Each step toward the library felt like stepping deeper into a dark tunnel. The sun's rays, once warming, now cast elongated shadows, further entwining her worries in knots. Once at the library, she began searching through yellowed newspapers. Time slipped away as hours ticked by, each article heavy with tales of eerie happenings. Whispers of children vanishing without a trace. Echoes of a town in turmoil long ago. The dates on the page created a chilling pattern that mirrored current events, a twisted coincidence she refused to accept. As she flipped through the brittle papers, a name caught her breath: Hargrove. The headline screamed of a teacher accused of grooming children years ago, only to vanish when the tide of fear rose against him. The article mentioned a special place known as the Hollow Woods, an area where the children were last seen. Claire's stomach churned. What if Mr. Hargrove was slipping into that role again? Suddenly, the library door creaked open. Claire's heart skipped. She glanced up, but it was just a librarian with a kind smile, unfolding their own side of the story. The warmth felt paradoxical against the cold creeping into her heart. "Everything all right, dear?" the old woman asked, sensing the tension cloaked around Claire's shoulders. "Just researching some history," she mumbled. The librarian nodded knowingly, as if this was a common inquiry in the town. Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, a sense of urgency gnawing at her. She thanked the librarian and moved to the back, where the books laid forgotten in dusty stacks. Shuffling through weird archives, her fingers grazed a leather-bound journal. Its spine cracked. She cracked it open, inhaling the scent of aged pages. It contained sketches of the Hollow Woods, cryptic drawings of twisted trees. The illustrator had tried to map the area, but the scrawled messages twisted into wild verses. That S when she spotted a name scribbled frantically in the corner. "Beware the shadows that guard the lost." Chills raced up her spine. Shadows? Guarding? She stumbled back, heart thundering. "Mom?" She whipped around and nearly collapsed. Jake stood at the entrance of the library, wide-eyed. What was he doing here? "Mom, I'm scared. I saw him again." "Mr. Hargrove," Jake whimpered, his small hand clutching the doorframe. Time froze. A question roared in her mind. What if it was true? What if he was closer than she feared? "Jake, we need to go home right now," she urged, panic slicing through her voice as she grabbed his hand. As they hurried out of the library, dread gnawed at her, but she couldn't shake the feeling. The shadows were gathering, thickening around her. What awaited them in the dark, enveloped by the secrets hidden deep in the Hollow Woods? Claire's heart raced as they darted into the sunlit street. Panic gripped her throat like a vice. Jake's small hand felt cold, as if he absorbed the chill of the shadows lingering behind them. She cast a glance over her shoulder and swore she saw a figure melt into the distance, familiar, but grotesque from her newfound fears. "Mom, he was right there, in the tree line," Jake whispered, shivering against the cool breeze. Each word pierced her resolve like ice shards. "Don't look back. Just keep moving," Claire urged, pushing herself to walk faster while keeping an eye on her surroundings. The trees lined the edge of the street, their skeletal branches whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. An uneasy silence fell over them, as if the world held its breath. When they finally reached home, her sanctuary became a cage. Shadows pooled in the corners of the living room, dining room, everywhere she turned. She locked the door and drew the curtains, thrusting herself into a world of artificial light. The soft glow offered little comfort, but it was better than the blackness heaving just outside. "Where's Lily?" Claire asked, needing to distract herself. "In her room," sleeping, Jake murmured and rubbed his arms as if fighting off a chill. Claire went upstairs, dread bubbling inside her. She stepped quietly into Lily's room, where the child lay nestled under a pink blanket, blissfully unaware of the growing horror. With gentle fingers, Claire brushed a strand of hair from her daughter's face, but her heart sank at the sight of her peaceful sleep. If only they could all stay safe, insulated from the world outside. Suddenly, the shrill ring of the phone shattered the stillness. She hesitated but picked it up. "Hello?" There was no sound on the other end, only a heavy breathing that twisted her stomach. "Who's this?" she demanded, her voice trembling. The breathing stopped, replaced by a whisper, not a voice she recognized, but one that slithered under her skin, chilling her bones. "You're playing a dangerous game, Claire." The line went dead, and a cold sweat broke over her. Who knew her name? Who was watching? "Mom? What's wrong?" Jake's voice brought her back. She turned to see her son standing in the doorway, eyes wide and searching, and for a moment, the world seemed to tilt. She could see the shadows creeping closer, expanding, curling like smoke around the edges of her vision. "Nothing, honey. Just a prank call," she lied, forcing a smile that felt like glass. "A prank?" But it sounded scary. He pushed, brow furrowed with concern. "Just grown-ups being weird." She knelt and pulled him close, gripping him tightly. "We need to stay together, all right? No matter what, we stick together." As if summoned, a knock echoed through the house, heavy and fat with menace. Claire's pulse quickened. "Mom, I don't like this," Jake whimpered, clutching her tighter. "And a one visited this time of day." Who could it be? An icy finger of dread crawled up her spine. She moved cautiously toward the door, each step laced with trepidation. "Stay back, Jake," she whispered, her eyes locked onto the door. The knocking came again, more insistent, as if demanding entry. Claire could feel the air inside the house thicken, wrapping around her like a tension-filled coil, ready to snap at any moment. "Open up, Claire." A voice called out low, smooth, and all too familiar. "I know you're in there." Her breath hitching, Claire backed away as realization hit her. It was Mr. Hargrove. What did he want? The shadows closed in, and her mind screamed. No, she would not let him in. "Truth lies buried in the hollow woods," he crooned through the door, each word wrapped in menace. She grabbed Jake and rushed toward the back exit, heart racing. But what if the woods weren't the real threat? What if he wasn't he alone? As they slipped out into the backyard, Claire's thoughts narrowed to one singular point: what secrets would she unearth by delving deeper? The dark beneath the surface loomed ahead, twisting like roots underground, whispering promises of horror waiting to be revealed. Could she face the shadows, threatening her family? She nibbled her lip, terrified yet enthralled. What if the truth was even darker than the shadows themselves? Claire's breath came in sharp bursts as she pulled Jake into the dimness of their backyard. The familiar scent of cut grass now felt foreign, laced with an undercurrent of unease. Overhead, the sky seemed to darken, large blotches of gray twisting like smoke against the fading light. "Where do we go?" Jake's voice trembled, small and vulnerable. Just stay close." Claire's heart raced, pounding in sync with the pounding on the front door that stabbed through the twilight stillness like a knife. With the house a prison behind them, the backyard felt like a threshold to something larger, something both terrifying and beckoning. She knew the paths leading to the hollow woods, the unfathomable secrets stretching beneath those gnarled roots. But the woods felt like a siren's call now, enchanting yet malignant. "Mom!" Jake's voice broke through the thickening dread. What did Mr. Hargrove mean? What truth is in the woods? Claire swallowed hard, the fear griping her throat tightened. I don't know, but we need to be careful." She forced a calm she didn't feel, grappling with the urge to protect her son against an unseen evil. They darted silently between the trellised vines, keeping low, trying to avoid any creak of the old fence that could give away their hiding place. The front door continued to thud open and closed. It was a steady rhythm, a heartbeat of menace. Then, a chilling thought struck her. What if the woods weren't calling her for truth but for sacrifice? Another loud knock reverberated through the silence, followed by Mr. Hargrove's unsettling voice. "I see you, Claire. You can't hide from the truth. Or from me." The sound echoed in her mind, sending shards of panic through her veins. She peered around the corner, scarcely believing her eyes as she glimpsed a shadowy figure moving just beyond the porch light. It was Hargrove, his features indistinct yet clad with an authority that made her stomach twist. "Mom!" Jake whispered urgently, his little hands gripping her arm. Her instinct screamed. They needed to move. She grabbed Jake's hand, darting toward the back gate, but a rustle in the bushes startled them. Both froze, hearts hammering in their chests. Was it a trick of the fading light? Go, Claire. The truth is waiting. Hargrove's voice sang out again, low and tempting. No, we're not going back. Her voice shook, but the terror that filled her eyes burned fiercely. They had to get to safety. As they pushed through the gate, they plunged into the shadows of the woods, the trees trapping them like fingers gripping a frail neck. The air shifted, pregnant with the scent of damp earth and decay. Why doesn't he just leave us alone? Jake pleaded, his small voice echoing against the monstrous trunks. Because he wants something, Claire whispered, panic clawing at every word. They had to run, deeper into the woods where the branches twisted high and the underbrush betrayed unseen dangers. Each snap of a twig felt like a warning, each rustle a promise of terror. Claire felt the weight of her decisions bearing down on her. Should they confront the woods or flee further into it? I don't know, Jake, but whatever it is, we can't let it catch us. They ducked beneath thick branches. A flash of movement to the side made Claire pause. The shadows danced, and suddenly, dark shapes began to swirl among the trees, whispering secrets she couldn't decipher. Mom, I'm scared. Jake's voice fractured into a fearful whimper. Clara's eyes darted around, heart pounding, feeling the oppressive weight of the forest bearing down upon them. They were not alone. Stay close, she hissed, forcing herself to move forward, forgetting the back gate that seemed so far away. They ventured deeper into the shadows, their eyes adjusting to the depths where all light seemed to evaporate. And then they heard it, a low rumble, a growl that reverberated through the marrow of her bones. It was a sound that shook Claire to her very core. She paused, every instinct blaring a warning. What had they stumbled into? The woods seemed to shift and breathe, each rustle, signaling something older than them, something that had waited for a long time to awaken. Mom Jake's voice was barely a whisper, but it was a plea laced with desperation. That terrible rumble echoed again, and a rustle behind them escalated into a cacophony, a hunt, a gathering. As they turned, the shadows materialized, revealing figures cloaked in darkness, their eyes glowing like embers in an eternal night. They were surrounded, and just off to the side, in the thickening dark, a bright point glimmered, something buried beneath the roots, something that pulsed like a heartbeat. Claire knew they had to decide, move forward or backtrack. That glimmer held secrets, waiting to be uncovered, or maybe it was just another trap. What truths do I have to face? She thought, dread pooling in her stomach. Now there was no choice. The consequences were upon them, and every path held darkness. Where would it lead them? She gripped Jake's hand tighter, and they stepped closer to the unknown. The air thickened as Claire and Jake ventured further into the woods, the oppressive weight of darkness closing in around them. The trees loomed like sentinels, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky. Shadows whispered. It was as if the very wood were alive, watching their every move. Clara's heart thudded, her senses screaming in alarm. The figures had melded with the hanging darkness, their smoldering eyes reflecting a hunger she couldn't comprehend. She pulled Jake closer, feeling his small body trembling against her side. What if there? Jake began, but Claire shushed him, forcing herself to focus. She couldn't let her fear permeate through her son. They had to keep moving. With the pulsing light beckoning from the undergrowth, the ground beneath them turned soft and spongy, threatening to swallow their feet. Claire felt a shudder ripple through her body as they approached the source of the glow. She could almost hear the heartbeat now, the rhythm steady, ominous. Goosebumps prickled her skin as she tried to make sense of it. Mom, I don't like this, Jake whimpered, his voice breaking. Shoo, she said, a forced calm in her voice. We need to see what it is. It might help us. As they drew nearer, the glimmer transformed into a strange light emanating from a jagged opening beneath the roots. Something, or someone, lay buried within a figure wrapped in shadows and decay, cradled against the earth. The heartbeats quickened, echoing her own rising panic. Claire. Hargrove's voice pierced through the suffocating stillness, distorted but clear, like an echo from another realm. Face the darkness. You know what you must do. No, she screamed back, the sound ripping from her throat. You don't know anything about me. The spectral forms shifted, edging closer, drawn to her outburst. Their whispers sharpened into a dissonance that sent a chill racing down her spine. The trees seemed to lean in, encroaching, pressuring her. "Stay back," she ordered, raising her hands defensively. The glowing figure reacted, a ripple of shadow passing through it. Suddenly, Claire felt an overwhelming surge of dread. What if this was not only the answer, but a curse waiting to bind them? "Mom!" Jake's voice trembled again, louder this time. He was clutching her shirt. Claire could see the fear etched in his little face, a reflection of her own. "We need to leave." Just as she was about to retreat, the ground shuddered violently. The air erupted with a rush of wind, uprooting the trees. Claire stumbled, grabbing hold of Jake, who almost slipped from her grip. The shadows seemed to howl, their forms flickering in and out of existence as though the very fabric of reality was tearing. "No!" Claire roared into the chaos, feeling a desperate need to reclaim control. "We're not afraid." But deep down she was terrified of the truth lurking in the heart of the woods, terrified of Hargrove and what he had unleashed. "What are you hiding from, Claire?" His voice prompted an echo in the depths of her mind. But before she could process the words, a piercing scream erupted from the shadows, cutting through the wind like a blade. She recognized it instantly, an echo of anguish she couldn't ignore. "Help!" echoed the voice, a familiar timbre wrapped in desperation. Whipping around, Claire strained to see through the obscuring night. "Who's there?" she yelled, barely able to keep the edge of panic from her voice. A flicker of light caught her eye again, but this time it pulsed with a different rhythm, urgent and pleading. "Help, please help!" Everything within her screamed to go toward it, but caution held her back. The woods were alive with the possibility of traps and deceit. The glowing figure beckoned with a desperate whisper that paralyzed her. "Help us before it's too late, before they find you." Instinct wrestled with dread. "Mom!" Jake's terrified whisper returned her focus. I can't do this, we need to run." But the call resonated deeply, mingling with the heartbeat from the ground. The choice loomed before her, the light, the plea, the past clawing at her heels while entities throbbed in the shadows. Desperation clawed at her throat. Would she step into the unknown for her own truth, or would she escape into the night, taking Jake with her into an uncertain future? She took a shuddering breath, the decision tangling itself within her pulse. Silence, then, echoed both heavy and haunting as the shadows shifted and swirled around them. "Mom?" Jake's eyes widened in fear. The woods held secrets, and those secrets wanted blood. What truth awaited them, and what sacrifices would it demand? Claire ached to uncover the mysteries, or perhaps it was better to flee, to leave the dark past buried deep. But at what cost? The light flickered again, drawing Claire closer, a siren call laced with despair. Every instinct begged her to turn and run, to leave the dread behind. But the familiar voice wrapped tight around her like a vine, squeezing her heart until it hurt. "Help us before it's too late," pulsed with urgency. Swallowing hard, she stepped forward, tugging Jake along with her. The ground squelched beneath them, the earth almost breathing, alive and undulating. "Mom, please don't." Jake's protest was barely a whisper, lost in the thickening air. She tightened her grip on him, determined. She had to find out who was calling out, had to understand what haunted the woods, what had turned the shadows into living nightmares. As they neared the source, the pulsating light grew brighter, revealing features of a dark figure lying just beyond the shadows. A face turned towards them. Was it human? Was it dead? The contours twisted in a grotesque parody of life, unrecognizable yet achingly familiar. Claire's breath caught in her throat. The voice echoed in her mind, a haunting melody. "Help, remember what?" she shouted, the force of her fear charging the air. Echoes swirled around them, oscillating between grief and laughter, chilling her to the bone. Shadows thickened, almost tangible, creeping closer, whispering secrets too dark to bear. Suddenly, the light exploded, illuminating the clearing in its entirety. Claire staggered back, blinded. Jake clung tightly to her waist, his small frame shaking through squinted eyes. She saw it a woman, once beautiful now a mere shade of herself, sallow skin drawn tight over bone, eyes dark and cavernous, yet glistening with a flicker of recognition. Claire's heart raced. "Mom?" Jake's voice quivered, full of fear and confusion. But the woman's gaze was fixed on Claire, piercing through her. "You came back to find the truth," she rasped, her voice a ghostly echo that sent ice through Claire's veins. "Who are you?" Claire's voice trembled, panic clawing at her chest. "Your past, it's here." The words dripped like venom, each syllable a dagger wedged deeper into Claire's consciousness. "You must choose, to save us, or to flee and be lost forever." The shadows clawed forward, wrapping tendrils around her ankles, dragging her down into the nightmare. Desperation gripped her, fear squeezing tight. "Let her go," Jake yelled, voice brimming with innocence and terror. He pulled at her, but she felt her feet sinking, the earth holding her down, clawing at her. "Choose," the woman hissed, laughter mingling with sorrow. "Choose before it all slips away." From the depths of the swirling mass, silhouettes emerged, grotesque versions of faces she once knew, each one chiseled from her memory, twisted with torment. Each one a reminder of the life she had left behind. "Run, Mom!" Jake cried out. But where could they run? The darkness was all around, closing in, suffocating. The pulsing light flickered, wavering. Something was wrong, everything was wrong. Claire's heart shattered under the weight of her choices. "Please," she sobbed, words clawing their way out, desperate. "Tell me what to do." The shadows laughed, a cruel echo that reverberated through her soul. "Find the heart or find the end." Just then, the light surged again, illuminating a path beneath the roots, a narrow, winding throat that seemed to breathe, drawing her in with a gentle pulse. A choice, but with no words to define its consequence. And in that moment of turmoil, as the chilling laughter reverberated, Claire's decision loomed ever larger. Could she truly face what lay ahead? Could she save Jake? With a gasp, she reached for the light, heart racing, mind spinning. But could they escape the shadows that thrived on fear? "Mom!" Jake's voice, filled with urgency, snapped her back. Would they descend into the darkness or chase the light? Was it a path to salvation or damnation? Claire felt the pull of the winding path beneath her feet, a strange, sickening draw that made her stomach churn. She glanced down at Jake, his wide eyes reflecting the frenzy swirling in the darkened woods. Time stretched, the air cracked with anxiety, thickening like fog. "Mom, please, I don't want to go." His voice trembled, breaking the spell of the moment. She hesitated, caught in a web of indecision. The shadows around them darted in frenzied patterns, whispering secrets too vile to comprehend. "I know, honey." I know. The words hung in the air like heavy chains. The woman, her face like a broken mirror, whispered again. "Choose or the darkness consumes you both." Her tone was both beguiling and threatening, forcing Claire to look deep within herself. She felt the light beckoning, a siren promising hope amid despair. Yet every instinct screamed for retreat. This was not a sanctuary. It was a trap. "Jake, stay close." Claire tightened her grip, feeling the warmth of his small hand tremble. They moved together, fighting the suffocating darkness. But with every step, the shadows coiled tighter. Claire's heart raced as she stepped onto the path, drawn to its pulsing glow. Even as they advanced, the shadows grew bolder, their laughter mingling with anguished cries, each wail echoing like a dagger aimed at the core of her being. It was a cacophony of despair, choking any rational thought. I can't let them take you," she gasped, gaze darting toward Jake. "I'm scared, Mom." Jake's sorrowful eyes pierced her heart. But just as she turned to comfort him, the shadows lunged. Tendrils wrapped around her ankles, pulling her down. Claire screamed, feeling the earth quake and rumble beneath her, as if it were alive with malignant intent. "Help us!" a voice screeched from the depths of the darkness. It was familiar, sinking into her marrow like an old wound. "You must help us." Claire. Images surged in her mind, a snapshot of forgotten laughter echoing through her childhood home. The love of family now twisted into something grotesque. The realization hit her like a cold slap. Was this what they had become? "Mom, we have to run," Jake cried, panic rising like bile in his throat. But run where? She shot back, terror flooding her veins. The shadows were hungry. Their claws were deepening their grip, dragging them further into a banquet of anguish. She couldn't let them take him. "Look," Jake cried, pointing toward the flickering light. It pulsated with an alluring urgency, but Claire felt the push of dread resurge to a choice they were never ready to make. "Go. We have to go now," Claire screamed, yanking Jake away from the encroaching darkness, their feet pounding the slushy ground. They took off down the path, hearts pounding in syncopation. The girl in the light became a figure of divine hope. They could escape. But just as they neared the light, it splintered and shattered, dispersing into shadowy tendrils that lashed out, grasping at air. "No!" Claire's voice rose in anguish. The darkness laughed again, mocking their desperate attempt. The laughter fueled her resolve. "Follow me," she shouted, urging Jake forward. But was the light truly salvation? In the depth of her mind, the questions surged like waves against a crumbling cliff. "Mom, wait!" Jake hesitated, and Claire felt a knife twist in her gut. "Please, I can't lose you two." And for a moment, quivering in the grip of her fears, she stood frozen in the dark. "Choose, Claire. Choose," the woman wailed, her voice a ghostly wind whispering through the branches. Suddenly, the ground beneath them quaked, splitting open with a loud crack. A chasm appeared, yawning wide, dark and hungry. The shadows morphed into forms they both recognized yet feared. Faces contorted in terror, grasping towards them. A voice echoed amidst the chaos, "Find the heart if you dare." Claire's breath hitched. They were seconds from a decision that could change everything. Would they leap into the abyss or confront the dark truth that waited on the other side? Hope twisted into fear, and the moment sustained a faint flicker of light. In the ever-deepening darkness, "Mom!" Jake's voice reached her, both a plea and a warning. But before she could respond, the darkness surged forth, pulling them closer. Would they find the heart or be devoured whole? The chasm expanded, revealing roiling darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. As panic surged through Claire, she realized the horror was not merely the void before them but what lurked within it. In that instant, she felt Jake pull away slightly, his tiny grip loosening even as her fear clawed at her heart. "Mom, we can't." His eyes darted helplessly, searching for an escape that was slipping away. The shadows writhed like serpents, eager to drag them into the depths. They whispered promises of release, a fragment of solace amid chaos. "It's too dark. I can't see anything. Just hold on to me," Claire screamed, her voice breaking as she yanked him close. A chill swept through her as she locked eyes with the shadowy figures emerging from the depths. Their faces distorted, mouths pulling into grotesque grins, as if they had known their pain for lifetimes. "Help us, Claire." The voices echoed again, rising around them like a storm. Some were familiar, sending rivulets of dread coursing through her. The memories surged, a childhood laughter turned to cries, a haunting echo of lost souls tripping over one another in a struggle for release. The ground shook violently, rupturing the thin membrane of the present, leaving only a yawning maw of despair. The apparitions lunged closer, their cold breath wrapping around Claire and Jake. They could feel the despair radiating from them, pressing against their skin like an unbearable weight. "Choose, Claire. Choose." The woman's voice rang louder, gnarled hands beckoning them forward, her broken face twisting into a mockery of concern. There was sickening recognition in her eyes. "Mom, please, we have to get out of here," Jake pleaded again, barely able to shout over the cacophony of grief and rage swirling around them. For a split second, a path behind them flickered like a whisper of hope. But there was a price for every escape. The shadows danced restlessly, their hunger palpable. Claire wrestled with her growing despair, her heart striking against her ribs in a frantic rhythm. What would it cost to save him? Together, she urged, voice trembling, choking on adrenaline. On my count. As she began to count, the darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating. It felt like stepping into a nightmare, the shadows promising that true escape could only come at the cost of another sacrifice. 3-2 The wave of shadows began to coalesce into a single, taut entity. Its essence pulsed with an ancient sorrow, its intent dark. "Mom!" Jake squeaked, as the ground beneath them quaked again, nudging them closer to the gaping maw of terror waiting to claim them. "Run!" Claire shouted, the word barely escaping her lips as she yanked him towards the flickering path behind them. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage and despair, as if the very fabric of the woods lamented their choice. In a wild surge of motion, they bolted backward just in time. The darkness screamed, a visceral sound that rattled Claire's bones as the chasm closed with a thunderous crunch, obscuring whatever lay behind. But in the silence that followed, a sinister laughter echoed a promise of what was left behind. "We will find you," the voices taunted, deep and haunting, wrapping around them like vines. Heart racing, Claire glanced back at her son. "Are you okay?" Jake nodded, but terror lingered on his face. What do we do now?" The question hung in the charged air, a new uncertainty looming heavily between them. Claire's pulse quickened as a low hum crept in, thrumming through her veins. The very trees vibrated with agitation, shadows thickening at their edges. "What if we didn't escape?" Claire whispered. "Mom?" Jake looked up, eyes wide with fright. "The heart, it's still out there waiting," she said, more to herself than to him. The hair on her neck prickled as she turned slowly, staring into the deepening shadows that bore down like a weight. Could they really leave it behind? Before she could process the thought, something glimmered in the corner of her eye. A flash of light, no, darkness unexpected, pulsating against the brushes of wood. "What is that?" Jake gasped. Claire squinted, both drawn and repulsed. The shadows pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. No way, Claire breathed, feeling the pulse of fear and fascination wrestle within her. "But should we go back?" Jake asked, gripping her arm desperately. To confront the darkness again. Was it courage or sheer madness that tugged her in? The sound of whispering voices crescendoed, a chilling symphony echoing in the trees. And as Claire stepped forward, her heart hammered, the shadows beckoning, she wondered if this time she could find the heart and end the nightmare. The shadows pulsed, and Claire could feel them pulling, winding around her thoughts, tugging at her very soul. The rhythm was suffocating, a heartbeat in sync with her own anxiety. Each beat seemed to beckon her closer to whatever lay at the center of that pulsating darkness. "Mom, please don't." Jake's voice trembled at her side, desperation lacing his words. He clutched her hand like a lifeline, his small fingers digging into her palm. But the allure of the light or whatever it was pulled at her, igniting a wild curiosity mingled with dread. Claire felt her instincts screaming for her to run, to flee the ominous whispers that wrapped tightly around their bodies. Yet every fiber of her being yearned to understand what haunted this forest. The moment froze. Shadows slithered forward, narrowing the edges of their world until only the pulsing glow remained. The faces of the lost souls flickered in and out like dying embers, caught between realms. Claire's blurred memories surged, faces of those long gone mixed with the ghoulish figures who sought to reclaim the children of this forest. "Mom!" Jake cried. She shook her head to clear the fog. "Just a little closer," she whispered, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. As they stepped closer, the ground beneath them shifted, a dark swirl of earth shifting as though it were alive. The pulse intensified, the throbbing echo of despair resonating through her. Each beat sharpened the horror, the realization that they were not alone. "Not anymore. Help us." Claire, the voices beckoned, overlapping in a chorus of anguish. There were children's voices there too, lost and pleading, echoing through the trees like a haunting lullaby. The sorrow made Claire's heart race, her chest tightening painfully. "Don't listen," Jake shouted, pulling at her. We need to go. She hesitated, a cold dread washing over her. Were they truly meant to uncover the source of this horror? The pulsating shadows seemed to promise knowledge, a way to end the suffering or, perhaps, join in it. No, Claire shouted, rallying against the tightening grip of despair. We will not be like them. With every ounce of strength, she ripped her arm free from Jake's hold, daring to step toward the light, the pulse beckoning her. Felt like a siren-esque call, melodious yet terrifying. The shadows throbbed, and for a heartbeat, everything stilled. But behind that stillness, the voices morphed into screams, a cacophony of lost souls, warning her away. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air. Not the twisting wails of the dark, but Jake's terrified cry. Her heart plummeted as she spun around. He was being tugged toward a different set of shadows, those moving with intent and purpose, feeding on his terror. "Mom!" he shouted, eyes wide with panic. "Jake!" Claire dove back toward him, but the darkness bulged, morphing into a whirlpool that swallowed everything in its wake. "Look!" Jake pointed, his voice trembling. The shadowy mass flickered momentarily, and Claire caught a glimpse of something someone, a hand reaching out through the darkness. The figure was familiar, without a doubt. "Mom! No!" Jake screamed, backing away, but Clara's heart twisted as the figure became unmistakable. "Maggie?" she whispered, a wave of shock crashing over her. But it wasn't her sister emerging from the depths. The figure was a mere imitation, crafted from shadows and sorrow. "Join us," Claire the darkness lured, its seductive pull wrapping around her like a lover's embrace, chaotic yet comforting. "No," Claire shouted, her voice shaking as she wrestled against the void's pull. "I won't let you take him." With one desperate surge of courage, she lunged toward Jake, wrapping her arms around him. Their hearts raced in tandem, thrumming louder than the shadows. She closed her eyes, imagining light, hope, and safety, a beacon in the despair. The shadows shrieked, an uproar of rage as they recoiled from their joined bravery. Claire felt the air shift, the darkness pushing away as if she'd become the light itself. But the chilling laughter returned, echoing through the trees, promising they'd always be there waiting for their chance. And then Claire felt it, a fracture in the ground opened before them, revealing the shadowy landscape beyond. "Mom, I'm scared," Jake's voice quavered. They stood on the edge of a new horror, but Claire couldn't turn back. "What now?" Jake whimpered as the laughter grew louder, wrapping around their bodies like chains, with the hollow abyss calling them again and shadows threatening to envelop the world once more. Claire had to wonder. Could this be the end? Or was there something yet lurking deeper below, waiting for them to step one more time into the night? "Whatever you do, don't look back." The shadows writhed violently, clawing at Claire and Jake as they teetered on the edge of oblivion. In that breathless moment, the weight pressed down harder than ever, layers of darkness begging them to submit. But Claire locked her gaze on her son, the pure light of his innocent spirit grounding her to the here and now. "Hold my hand tight," she urged, heart pounding like a drum. "We'll face this together." With one slow, deliberate step, Claire pulled Jake forward. Just then, the darkness lunged at them, searching for cracks to fill, but they were resolute. Deep down, she felt a flicker of resistance ignite within. "We're stronger than this." Then she remembered the stories whispered in the darkness. "We must face the heart of the woods," Claire shouted, the conviction in her voice unwavering. Shadows shifted, confusion evident among the ghastly forms, and she felt their grip weaken as she took another step forward. "Mom!" Jake cried out, determination clashing with fright. "What do you see?" "I can see hope," Claire shouted back, voice echoing against the desolation. "We must believe in it, Jake." They pushed deeper, and the eerie glow intensified, showing more than just silhouettes of loss. It morphed, revealing flickering emotions of bygone nights, memories snatched away by malicious forces. "Help before it's too late," echoed the phantom voices once more, a chorus of sorrow mingled with urgency. As they drew closer to the pulsing heart, Claire couldn't ignore the truth that was waiting to unfurl. You want something from me? She roared at the encroaching darkness. What do you want? Screams of the forgotten echoed around them, but she pressed on, eyes locked on the bright discord. Shadows roared in anger, twisting like snaking tendrils. Help us, they begged, voices tangled in anguish. The truth dawned, a choice lay before her. The clarity pierced through her fog of fear like sunlight through storm clouds. Claire. The familiar voice drifted toward her. Maggie. Claire's sister, lost yet not forgotten. Face the truth of your past. All the shadows surged forward, and Claire felt fear threaten to swallow her whole. But she held her son tighter, a bond fortified against the chaos. Maggie. Her voice rang loud. I will not lose another. The pulsing light grew blinding, splitting the darkness like a candle flickering defiantly in the wind. You will tell us all, she defiantly declared. You will not take our strength. With one final surge of power, she surged towards the beacon of light, where the truth lay tangled within, overshadowed yet never extinguished. As they approached, the boundary of shadows recoiled, an unnatural stillness enveloping them. Clara's heart raced as the familiar voice whispered, You've come for me. The shadows loomed on edge, the warmth of recognition flooding Clara's spirit with bittersweet clarity. Yes, Maggie. I've come to bring you home, Claire shouted, tears welling as she felt Jake's tiny hand grip her tighter, anchoring her to what mattered in this moment of truth. Claire saw clear silhouettes forming from the shadows, faces of lost loved ones, weeping for the love that had been surrendered all those years ago. They hovered, aching to break free from the grasp of the darkness. This is what they want, she realized. Fear. With newfound resolve, she channeled all her energy toward the love she shared with Jake and Maggie. We won't abandon you, Claire cried, feeling a surge coursing through her. The shadows convulsed, anger morphing into defeat. Clara's voice acted like a sword, cutting through the despair with clarity. Your chain ends here. I break the cycle. Brighter than ever, the light expanded, illuminating the painful past, flooding it with a warmth that rendered the darkness powerless. Faces once twisted with grief now reflected pride, buoyed by love and relief. Run, she cried to Jake. Run to the light. And without hesitation, they turned, sprinting together towards that welcoming glow. The darkness screamed, a crescendo of howls echoing as they pushed through, terror encasing them even as hope guided them. Forward as they raced ahead. The shadows retreated, tendrils dissolving in the warmth. Claire could feel Maggie's spirit alongside them, guiding them both towards freedom. Whatever began here, it was over. They broke free from the wood's grasp, stumbling into cool night air, the moonlight wrapping around them like a comforting cloak. As she turned back for just a moment, Claire could see the shadows melting away, leaving nothing but the essence of memory behind. Mom! Jake shouted breathlessly, his eyes wide with awe. I know, she smiled, embracing him, their hearts quiet with relief. It's over. We found the truth. Nothing remained to haunt them anymore. The woods behind them stood silent, echoes of laughter fading with every footstep away they took. The night held no more secrets, just the safety of their bond, wiser and fuller than before. As long as they stayed united, hope would stand resilient against any dark force. And with this newfound understanding, Claire made a vow. She would talk, honor the past, and keep the truths alive for Jake. With every story shared, shadows would only draw back, casting light for future generations. Let us go home, Claire said, knowing they would never lose their way again. As they walked hand in hand, the pain of the past lingered, but hope now filled the spaces left for lost love. They embraced each other, ready to face the world ahead. This was truly the beginning. Now, don't let this moment slip away. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now. It helps support the channel. I want to hear from you, so flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Can't wait? Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions.